Hi, and welcome to Ticket to Life. This is Henry, and I thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you today. I hope that if you have had any bad stuff going on in your life, I hope that it will be resolved soon. Just try to remember it's not a Job thing. And if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, there will be a link at the bottom of the description of the podcast to hear my podcast on Job. And if you're listening to me on the radio, you can go to the podcast on any major platform, wherever you hear your podcast. And if you know the story of Job, then you probably have figured out why I'm saying that. If you don't know the story, then you will realize your troubles aren't anywhere near as Job. But first of all, I'd like to thank everyone again for listening. And I want to say happy birthday to my grandson, to my granddaughter, to my niece, and to my daughter. We have lots of birthdays going on in October here in Texas. But anyway, happy birthday to anyone who's having a birthday, but especially to my familia. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about enemies. Who is your worst enemy? Well, first off, I will tell you, I always get confused with the words worst and worse. And I'm pretty sure I am not the only human being that gets confused with those, but I do all the time. When you write it, especially, but especially since both really mean bad. One's worst than the other. But anyway, don't you just love our English language? So I'll say it again. Thank you for listening and that you have not turned off the podcast or the radio. I know that some of you believe you have enemies and some of you believe I don't have any enemies. But you probably do. And they live with you, work with you, and are always with you. Your worst enemy could be you. We might criticize others, but I know we aren't supposed to judge anyone, but you know and I know that we do. And we aren't supposed to talk about people, but you know and I know that we do. But we know that we have done this before and we probably will our entire life. I don't spread gossip. I'm like, oh, guess what? Make stuff up. If I do pass on a story, if you tell me not to say anything, no, I will not say anything. But make sure you say, will you promise? Take it to the grave, then I will not say a word. But sometimes someone shares something with you and you have to tell someone. You just have to. I don't know how priests do it with confessions because I'm sure they hear all sorts of stuff. But anyway, how do you feel about you? I always say that you need to love yourself or at least like yourself and that we should always take care of ourselves. Why? Because we are important in life. You may not see this or believe this, but you are. And I truly wish more people would let others know how important you are or that we are in their lives. But I kind of think it might be weird for some and make a relationship awkward because people aren't very good at taking compliments. I'm not very good at it. When someone says something, a compliment towards me, I'm just like, oh, well, thanks. And I change the subject or something. I'm just not very good at it. But it is awkward for some people to be honest. And it shouldn't be, but it just is. But could you imagine if we all just let people know how important they are to us? And have you ever received a card or a text from someone who told you that or how much they just appreciate you and you hadn't done anything special for them, but they just wanted to let you know? Now, I have, and it meant the world to me. Um, I've had two really close friends who have written thank you notes. Well, actually, I've had more than that, but I'm now. It just means more. Maybe because I'm older. I don't know. Those things just mean so much when someone expresses how they feel towards you. Because a lot of people cannot express how they feel towards someone. I mean, I think family should be able to do that, but sometimes they just can't. Now, my daughter and I are always just telling each other how much we love each other and miss each other because we're, in separate states. But it's just so important to let people know how important they are to you. And so, yes, I have received some a card before, cards, and I have kept them because they just mean a lot to me. For someone to randomly let you know that, though, out of nowhere, a friend or family, and you don't realize how much that means to them. And it does. It means so much because I had no idea that they felt this way. You are the listeners, and you're very important to me. And realistically, we don't even know each other. Although I do have some family and friends that do listen. And yes, I know them. But majority of Ticket to Life listeners are people that I don't know around the world. And again, thank you for listening. I know I'm developing a pattern to say thank you, but I am very appreciative. When I say thank you, I mean it. I really don't think that so many of you realize that you are so important in my life. And even though we don't know each other, I cannot imagine how important you are in other people's lives. So, anyway, back to enemies. Do you ever catch yourself saying negative stuff about the way you look, think, your quality of life, your job, your family, and no matter what it isn't good enough? At least you feel as though it's not good enough for you. You might feel as though you're not good enough to have something better or that you could better yourself. As I always say, accept who you are and love who you are. You can all change, but do you want to change? Has someone told you something negative about your life or about you, and now you've started to think that they could be right? Whatever you do, do not listen to them and listen to yourself and not someone else. Now, if you ask for their opinion, of course, yes, okay, I'm just going to ask your opinion. That doesn't mean you need to, because sometimes people are bold and they will find something negative to say instead of something positive. And whatever you do, again, do not listen to them. Always follow your heart. Follow your, listen to what your head's saying. Many times, some people will plant seeds of negativity in our brains. And we don't even realize that they did it because of the way they do it. Because people can be pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Nasty. The way they are conniving to get into someone's head. And I know that's horrible to say, but it is true. Of course, some of you have said, I've never met anyone like that. Well, I have. People have to accept who you are and where you are in your life and do not change again for anyone, especially if you love or like yourself. Now, I like myself, and it took me years to like myself. But there's things that I would like to do different in my life right now, but this is going to be my decision. No one else's. Now everyone's going to be wondering, ooh, what is she going to do? What is she thinking? Nothing major. Trust me. But now, how many times have I thought negative things about myself? Many. My daughter and my son will correct me when I do say something negative, because if you have been listening to Ticket to Life, you know that I am all about being positive. But sometimes that positive is for everyone else except for myself. Do you do that sometimes? Go figure. I have no idea why. Although I have to admit that I have eased up on myself as I've gotten older and I've accepted who I am. I've accepted these wrinkles and these age spots and the extra weight. but there are things I can do about them. But for now, I've accepted them, and it's not so bad because guess what? This is who I am. This is who you get. This is who you get on Ticket to Life. But how many of you have had the fear of failing at something? I know I have. When I started this podcast, I was terrified. And if you hear the first one, I'm not telling you to go hear it. You can hear I am a fast talker, but I was talking 90 to nothing. And I've heard it only 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, oh, I need to make a new podcast on Let Me Introduce Myself because I am so much more comfortable with it's just me and Mike. And me and Mike are together every week. So when I say Mike, I'm talking about my microphone. But anyway, it is. We sometimes think, just what am I doing? Where is my life going? But again, question yourself and only don't start questioning. If you are happy, if you're just so happy in your life, then your life is good. And I wonder what could happen if I followed through on someone who ever told me something negative. And I'm sure I did when I was young and dumb. But now I just think it's crazy. Some of us are scared of failing again, as I said earlier, at our jobs, relationships, parenting, hardest job in the universe, and basically anything important in life. We are just scared and we don't know how to move on with this. So that, again, makes us our worst enemies. It is tough. Now, sometimes we have low self-esteem and feel as though we don't deserve good things to happen to us. We criticize ourselves and feel as though we don't deserve happiness. But guess what? We do. And we have to help ourselves through tough times. Remember, life is short and we are not promised tomorrow, and live in the now and not the past. And again, you know, my go-to guy is God. Say the word and he'll listen. But how many of you have had difficulties moving on from family feuds, and I don't mean the game show, or difficulties from a failed relationship or a marriage, or your kids are too cool to be seen with you, and that just, you feel like, oh, where have I failed? Well, FYI, trust me, this will pass with teens. It's not failing. It's just life with a teen. Now, some kids, you got to keep them close just to keep them where you need them to be. And again, remember, respect your child, but they need to respect you first. And trust me that you'll get past all that. Or you just, back to the, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked with the teenagers, but, or just you can't move on from one thing that you may have done in the past. Have you done that? Like there's something you did in the past and you just can't let go. And something that someone told you that was negative, and those thoughts, sometimes we just allow those negative thoughts in our heads, and no, that is not a good thing. Do you allow those thoughts in your head, though, even though you say you don't? Say, oh, no, I'm fine. I understand why they said that. It's fine. But it bugs you. Sometimes we accept our lives and can't or don't attempt to make them better. Now, if you settle, make sure you are happy with the way your life is, with the way things are for you. Why? Because we all deserve to be happy, and it takes work to be happy sometimes, and we can't be our worst enemy. Now, I'm going to mention some categories of friends. And fortunately and unfortunately, we may have some family members that fall into these categories. Now, a friend that no matter what, they are there for you to ride or die for you. They're there. They are there for you no matter what you've done, said, and you should always be there for them too, because those are friends that are hard to come by. Now, this can be your partner, your lover, I wanted to include your lover into this too, if you have one, or a family member, work colleague, coworker, whatever you want to call them, neighbors, no matter what. No matter what, they are there for you. Now for the friends of convenience. These are usually the friends and some family members that are loving, best friends, and never really think to put you first. But once you give them or give in to them and they get what they wanted or needed or what they were after, they change and become your enemy. I've had that in my past when I was younger. They may start an argument to shame you and make everything sound as though it's your fault. Ah, yes, the fair-weathered friend that becomes the enemy. Do you have one of those in your life? If you do, it's time to say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Adios. Avidase. Until later. Do not or try not to allow those negative people in your life. I know sometimes it can't be helped. No one needs that so-called friend in their life. And if it's a family member, and we really can't cut the cord from family because you just can't, but from them, just with family, you have to just be cordial and loving. And why? Because they are family. But do not allow them to be the fair-weathered family member. When the negative things start spewing from their mouth, just smile. Don't argue back. It's not worth it. It's not worth giving them that time. Just listen. And because they're family and you're going to love them no matter what. And just smile and know that you don't deserve these words. And just think you don't have to see them until the next holiday. I know that what I'm saying is always easier said than done. Because it's always easier to say things than it is to actually follow through. But life is short. And if you have never told anyone that is the ride and die friend how much they mean to you, please take the time to let them know. They may say, what's wrong when you do this? Like, they'll look at you like, well, what's wrong? Are you sick? Or do you need something? Because people don't express their feelings towards friendship. I don't know why we don't, but we just don't. So just let them know how important they are. And if you're too embarrassed to do it, send them a text, random text. Send them a card in the mail, which I love getting cards. I just do. I think, that people took the effort to get the pen and paper, the stamp, address it, put it in the mailbox. I am important, not just at Christmas, but it's just a good thing. So try not to get emotional with what I'm about to tell you, but I have mentioned in a few podcasts about my friend Dee Dee, who passed away earlier this year. I knew her for years and years and years. Yeah, she's like 10 years younger than I am. And, oh, how I miss her. And about 3 weeks ago, I found hold on. Deep breath, Henry. Deep, Henry. Okay, I got this. I found a paper that she wrote for school. And at that time, she had asked if she could write a paper on me. And someone had asked me this before also, but the other was more of a story about you and growing up. But this was from her own perspective of who I am. So, of course, when she asked, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's a paper for school. She was getting her bachelor's or master's, one of them at the time. And after she wrote the paper, she gave me a copy, and it was called Friend. And I read it, and I thought, oh, that's so sweet. And I thought about it, and I thought, I didn't realize she felt this close to me. But again, it wasn't like we were inseparable, but we were friends, good friends. I could call her, and I know she'd be there, and she knew that I'd be there for her, another 3 a.m. friend that you can call. And so the other day. Now this was written, let's say 2 or 3 years ago. She just passed away this year, so maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And so I was cleaning my desk and I found the paper. Oh my. Reading it now that she's gone, I didn't realize the relationship of our friendship and how she truly felt. It took a different perspective. She was gone. And when I read it, I literally sat here at this desk and I was bawling. My husband wasn't home, but usually when I record, the door is shut, and I just could not believe it. When I came across it, and I'm like, oh, what is this, friend? And then I started reading it and remembered, and I said, oh my goodness. Never knowing how important she was in my life. And I felt like I took advantage of not advantage, I took it for granted, the friendship. So where I'm getting at is never take things for granted. And I don't think I ever will again. She apparently had a big impact on my life and more than what I thought. It was a tremendous loss as a friend and to her family, her husband, and she's been gone for 6 months and it seems like eternity now. So, where I'm getting at, you know the saying, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer? Nah, definitely keep your friends closer and ditch the enemies. Because you deserve so much more and you mean so much more to so many. I'll tell you, life can turn within a split second. As we all know, I mean, there's so much going on in the world right now. And you don't need those enemies around you. You don't need that negativity because you are worth so much more. Someone may have tried to sell you a bill of goods that said you weren't worth anything. Well, phooey on them. Because each individual in this world is worth their life of being happy. We all deserve to be happy. Yes, we're going to have downfalls. That's just life. That is just life. And we're going to have heartbreaks and we're going to have disappointments, sadness. But we pick ourselves up, brush ourselves off, and we look up at God and say, get me through another thing. And He will. I promise you, He will get you through so stinking much. And so many people don't believe in that, but it's so true. I cannot, I'm sure some of you are like, oh, here she goes on the pulpit again. But it is so true to know that faith can get you through anything. And again, if you don't want to believe in God, that's your prerogative. That's great for you. But those that are challenged in being a Christian, just because you go to church doesn't mean you're a Christian. You know that. You have to have that faith. You have to have that walk. Okay, I'm now probably going to get some people saying, she said I wasn't a Christian and I go to church. Well, that's just my opinion. And don't forget, these are my opinions. But, again, just try your best to be positive for yourself. Find the positive in every single day that you have. You are probably more precious than you ever even thought you were. And someone may never tell you that, but I'm telling you, you're important to me. You're important to your family, to your friends, to your people at work, at home. You're important to your kids. Oh my gosh. And if you are a parent, I just need to say, God bless you, because parenting is the hardest thing ever. It is the hardest thing, molding and shaping good human beings. But make sure you introduce them to God early. They may stray away. We all stray away at one point in our life, but they'll come back. and just let them know they're never alone in anything. So this is my podcast on enemies, because and you've heard, I guess I could have used the word, what is it, frenemies, other than those friends of convenience, because those people do exist, and you will meet them and you will know the difference between a real friend and a friend who is just there for a little bit, the fair weathered friend. But I'm here if you ever need to vent or whatever. I will not give you my phone number because I do not like people calling me at 3 a.m. But feel free to text on podcast description. There's a text message where you can text message at ticket to life 022@gmail.com. And please don't forget, you can hear me on the radio in Metro Atlanta on WDJY 99.1 FM Talk Radio at 7 a.m. every Thursday Eastern Time. And here's my disclaimer. I don't know if I've given it yet or not. I probably have, because, once I start talking, I just keep going and going. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a guru. I'm not a life coach. I'm just Henrie. These are just my thoughts. And I thank you again. I know you probably get sick of me thanking you, but I do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in and listening to my podcast. I did post, I think, on my Instagram, Ticket to Life, all the countries that listen. There are too many cities. I'm wanted to post all the cities on there somehow, some way. Maybe I'll just make a long list, take a picture of them and post them, because I appreciate all these people who listen to me, and not just in Texas, but everywhere. And just to let you know, this is week 6, so I'm not sure when you will be listening to this of football. Week 7 is coming up, and I have yet to win any games. But anyway, I'm not getting upset about it. So, I guess this is it for now. And until next week, please, 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 go do something for yourself. Whatever, something good. Because all good things need to come to an end, and life comes to an end, but also this podcast is coming to an end. So just for this week, until next week, thank you again for listening. I will be praying for you, and I cannot wait to see you next week. And please go find your blessings. This is Henrie.